Dear God, thank you for this day and for the opportunity to come together and again discuss the business of the district and not just work on our hearts and minds, help us to make the best decisions that would benefit our students and our staff. God, please bless our nation and help us to love and support each other. In Jesus' name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Winkler?
Yes.
Mr. Gass?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson? Yes. Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith? Yes. Motion carries and brings us to the superintendent's report.
Thank you. Before I get started, I know Mr. Ashley is on via the Zoom meeting. And he has an appointment at 6:30, so I would like to let him speak first, because I think it's his wife's birthday, and they have a 6:30 appointment, from what I gather. So, Mr. Ashley, are you available to update?
Yes.
I don't see him in there. Who is that? Chris?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Okay, now we got you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm here. I kind of missed a little bit of that.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I know you have a prior appointment here coming up later this week, so I wanted to put you up first. I know we have our food service director and our food service coordinator positions posted currently, and I think those postings come down on Monday. We do have quite a few that are interested. I just wanted to see if you had anything to update or if the board had any questions.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I had was I did do the paid lunch equity, which is required for meal price increases. You know, and it showed that you know, the meal price would have to go to $3.05 next year in order to follow that regulation.
Do you have any questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, talking about microphone.
Yeah, you're raising our regular price 305. We've already been having a hard time at 285 unpaid lunch bills. You have a plan to try to get these unpaid lunch bills caught up?
We have, you know, I'm looking at the charge policy and those kind of things as far as, you know, what we need to do in order to encourage students to pay. I did see that there were a lot of unpaid meal charges. This is just following the federal regulation as far as the intention is so that the reimbursed free and reduced children's money is not used to subsidize paid students' meals. You know, and the other thing we'll work with is the other system, which is brand new, called Pay Schools, and seeing what they can do and working with staff in order to make sure that they keep communication open with parents to request that they make those, you know, payments on time.
Thank you.
Anything else for Mr. Ashley? All right, thank you, Mr. Ashley.
Thank you. You all have a great night.
Same to you. All right, next up, Mr. Kozlik. He's muted.
Yes, can you guys hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, you're good.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Caldwell. Good evening, board. It's a pleasure Zooming with you, but really can't wait until we meet in person again. I just wanted to pass something off to you. Attached to the superintendent's report there is a rating. It's a special education rating that we receive from the Ohio Department of Education and the Office of Exceptional Children. Every school district in Ohio receives a rating based on certain criteria, and they're called compliance indicators and also result indicators. You see those at the bottom of the first page. But above that, in the cream colored part of that, it says 2019 rating. We met the requirements and required actions are none. So that's good. And I just want to pass on that this was the 6th consecutive year that we had no required actions. So it's a true testament to the special ed staff and the intervention specialists that are working every day to complete the IEPs. If you look down below, we had almost a perfect score. The one on the right, the performance of results indicators, the one area that we didn't get 4 points for was the math proficiency rate. And we were just off about 5.27%, which equates to about 13 students. So if we would have had 13 more students past that, we would have had a perfect score of 4.0. But nonetheless, we ended up with a 3.83, which is very compliant, and we have no corrective action plans that are needed. Okay, and that's about it. Does anybody have any questions over that report?
Thank you, Mr. Kozlik.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next up, Mrs. Bohatch.
Yes, the only thing I have to report today is forward thinking on what next year is going to look like. And I know that's a big question on everybody's mind, but today was a really good presentation by EdVision, Ed Plus, that was sponsored for districts across the state to participate in. It's one of 3 different sessions, and they're talking about restarting, redesigning, and what that looks like. Key takeaways, Dr. Scott Hunt from the ODE said that ODE is not going to give directions on how schools should do this. It's going to be a local decision. They will provide guidelines, and a lot of those guidelines will be based on what the governor's guidelines are and the health department. But ODE is just going to kind of put up those guardrails, and then it will be back to the local decisions to make those decisions on what's best for the communities. But he said, start doing the planning now, don't wait. Make sure that you're looking at every scenario and also thinking from the life of a student, the daily life of a student, and how this will affect the students as we begin to plan. But also keeping in mind, we may at any given time have to spin and go from one type of plan to another, such as we did in March. Fortunately, we have a little bit more time to start thinking through those things and start planning for what that may be looking like if we end up on remote learning quickly. Other things to think about is how do we prepare staff for remote learning, supporting them with the tools that they need and the methods of instruction. And also, how do we make sure that we have constant contact with students should we be on remote learning? What are those methods, whether it's through like Class Dojo, Google Classroom, Remind, all of those different ways to connect, but having things consistent so we know how to get in touch with our students. Currently, we put out a survey yesterday to see how many of our staff were interested in being on committees to start planning and having those discussions. And we have about 55 responses back in 24 hours and a nice selection of all facets of our system between secretaries, paraprofessionals, custodians, cooks, bus drivers, administrative, and teachers. So there's definitely an interest for people to discuss this. So we got our hands full. We got a lot of work to do in the future, but you know, we're on the right track.
Any questions for Mrs. Bohatch? Thank you, Mrs. Bohatch. I also saw that list. We do have quite a variety of people that are interested, and you know, I'm sure you as well as myself, we are all very appreciative of those people willing to participate and helping plan our restart. So thanks for doing that as well. All right, next up, Mr. O'Connor, do you have anything for an update?
Sorry, were you talking to me, Rob? Linda?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
just asking if you have anything to update.
Yeah, just now working with the enrollment figures with the Facilities Commission. It's going to take them about 2 months to get their process together, so we'll be hearing more from them on the classroom planning. Also, we should be hearing from the ARC Grant 2 the first part of July for the new programs. And we finally got all of the CTE 26s completely approved. We had 3 that were outstanding. Those are all done. And was on a webinar today with Train for the HVAC system. And they want to do an analysis of each building for reopening the schools to make sure we have the right filters and for the sanitation and the cleaning portion of that. Also, we will be having some training for that FMX software for the maintenance. And we'll also be having some pay schools training for the food service the first part of July. So that's where we are right now.
All right, thank you.
What's the other one?
Facilities maintenance or facilities management. What's the next one? Anyway, it's a ticket system. We use it now for activity trips, and we're wanting to also start using it for maintenance in our building. Yeah. Mrs. Brill, you have anything?
I do not, Mr. Caldwell. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. James?
No, I did not. Well, I'm not sure if everybody had a chance to walk down to the innovation lab. We are finishing setting up the equipment in the lab. Next couple of weeks we'll be finished with that. We are working with the Bird Institute in West Virginia as potentially being a satellite alerting center for adult students. We're working on that. Like Linda said, we're waiting on information on the ARC grants to expand our adult learning, as well as setting up a remote learning studio that can assist both our adult learners as well as our K through 12. We think it'd be a resource that the teachers can use to expand their tool belt per se, to help the distance learning there. So we're working on those things.
All right, thank you.
Yes, the innovation lab was great. Exciting. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Okay, Mr. Rumming.
Yes, I have three different items. First of all, with the construction projects, here at Swiss Hills, the window dividers did come in, so they've been installed now. That was one of the long delay items we were waiting on. They have a few touch-up things down there. We're waiting on some materials to finish the one room. The carpet is down now. A lot of the equipment, like Mr. James said, is in. So that's progressing nicely. The seating along the wall is one of the last things in the hallway to be done. We signed contracts and everything for today to begin work on the restrooms. I'll be in on Monday to start on those. CCI will be. The second thing is the River Fieldhouse project. It has been moved back. Completion date's been moved back 1 week from August 7th to August 14th. The second floor, the pouring of it, because all the rain we had a couple weeks ago, they got delayed on pouring that concrete on the second level. So that got moved back to June 15th, I believe it is, or pour it. The third thing is the Monroe Central multi-purpose building. Floors down now, lines are on it and everything. So we have some other things that we're looking at in there, along with the baskets, the 2 classrooms and that. Those are items that we're going to look at right now and we're getting quotes on to bring to the board at the next board meeting. Along with that, I have some hard copies that I'll pass out. These are the agenda in your content. You may have those already. And you will see in there, it appears later in the agenda on Monroe Central and also High School, weight equipment to finish those buildings out. That is the last thing that Bellsville needs there at the field house. Monroe Central gives them an opportunity for all their students to be able to use that. Both facilities will have the opportunity for both male and female students to be able to use that equipment. Plus, it has the opportunity to be used in the classrooms also with physical conditioning classes and that. So if you have any questions on that, and I know Mr. Semple is here, that he can also answer questions if need be. We're there? Okay. The third thing, the board requested at the last board meeting, if we would look at free admission, okay, for students and for staff. So what we did was about 2 weeks ago, we called a meeting with all the athletic directors, and we met at Woodsfield at Monroe Central High School. And we put together, the athletic directors everybody had input on it. We put together what we did was we did percentages. We looked at all different kind of things, how we could do it. And one of the simplest ways, we had a hard time discerning between if we cut off at a certain grade level, okay, because it's tough to discern who a 5th grader is, who a 6th grader is, or 6th and 7th grader, and so on. So we factored in all the students, and what we did was we went to basically, and what this is you can take this, digest it, everything, you look at it, but it gives you information on it. And what you'll see is there's some different papers in here. And one of the first things that we have that's in there, you'll see is I ran some athletic budget numbers, okay, that we have. And to get to the end point, it kind of gives you an idea of what it costs. And I'm sure a lot of people don't know what it costs. Before you ever start a high school football game, you're about $1,000 to $1,100 in the hole. By the time you do officials, ticket takers, all your different workers. Basketball, you're about $375 to $450 in the hole with officials and that. Volleyball, wrestling, it gives you some different numbers on what it costs. A good example is I'll give you the budget numbers at River High School. Last year, we took in ticket sales, deposits was right about $70,000. 2 years ago, it was around $86,000. The year before that was right around $95,000. So we run quite a bit of money through. Each athletic director is responsible for taking a lot of money. It's kind of really, when you look at Monroe Central and Bellsville at a football game, they're responsible for handling that money off-site. Okay, so that's kind of a tough situation for them. There are a lot of fees that come out in the different programs, miscellaneous fees. To join the OVAC, it costs about $700-800 a year. Mid-Ohio Valley Leagues, $600. Buying bars and letters, for example, for kids for each year is around $800 to $1,000 cost the athletic department. So you have various things that go into that. You'll see also there a chart that shows where the money goes in a football game, how it's dispersed. Ticket breakdown. What we did, the athletic directors, we sat down and went over how many contests there would be a year, junior high, high school, everything, based on a full schedule and 50% of their home games. Then we factored in how many students each school has that could attend a game. All right, Bellsville High School K through 12 has 325 students, and these numbers are based on board docs from May. And we took the numbers off board docs from May, so they're accurate numbers. You know, depends upon what numbers you want to use from what month. We factored in at the junior high level only 20% of the population attending a game. At the high school level, we factored in 25% of the population attending a game. Okay, when you look at the numbers per school, it doesn't appear to be a huge amount, but when you start totaling the numbers up, it really adds up at the end. One of the things, if you look, for example, River High School, 155 students attending a game. A football game, that's probably a small amount, okay, attending a football game. If Monroe Central and River are playing, you've probably got 300-400 kids there, 500 kids there. You know, Bellsville's playing a local team, you have a high number of kids there. And it varies. Other games you may have less. Volleyball you may have less. It just varies back and forth. One of the things that we did though was we factored how much it would cost for fall, winter, and spring. Okay, and at the end, basically you'll see one of the things that we put in, we also factored in the employees, all employees getting in free. Okay, now that wasn't even in the 20 or 25%. So when you factor that in, it drops the percentages down to about, Bellsville High School would be about, right about 13% is all you're figuring would attend a game. River High School would be a little over 18%, Monroe Central a little over 18.5%. Right, so when we did the numbers.
What is that?
Bellsville High School would be 12.96%.
Of what?
Of the entire population. In other words, if you had 325 students, plus you had the possibility of 300 employees attending, okay, you're 625 versus, okay, if you had 61 students that could be there or 70 students that you factored out the 20% of the original number. So, you know, the percentages are less than 1 in 5. Will it increase numbers? Possibly. Okay, there's a good possibility that if kids are allowed in free, you're going to get higher numbers there. And I know that the overall, the whole end means was to get more kids at the game, to get more kids interested, to try and increase participation, keep them off the street, get them at a game. So there are different things that we can do. One of the things we also looked at was we said that we could take the junior high and the high school seasons and we could look at it and require each athletic director to do a head count. All right, how many kids are coming to the game for 3, 4, 5 contests? Okay, then at the end of the year, the athletic directors get back together and put those numbers on paper and say, okay, well, here's the average we came out with. You know, this is what's attending our games. And it's going to vary, depends upon who you play. You know, and I know right now each different school has some varying things that they do. I know Mr. Simple does some things with, I think it's Mr. Simple PBIS, where they have students coming to the game and that. I know Bellsville does some things, talk to us more. We do, you know, there's some different nights in that, but there are some possibilities. These are some numbers that you can look at. If you have any questions, I'm glad to answer.
Anything for Mr. Remy? All right. Thank you, Mr. Remy. All right, the only one other thing, since everybody else, everybody went before me and pretty much went down a couple things off my list. I just wanted to let you know, there is a thing, it's later in the agenda, actually, it's about the athletic trainers. The job descriptions will be on the agenda for approval. If you guys approve that, then we would like to post those positions, for 2 positions and start interviewing, as soon as we can. I know, talking to the ADs and the principals, I know they would be in favor of that, and I definitely know the coaches will be in favor of, having athletic directors on hand, you know, takes a load off their shoulders in the middle of a game. Take some of the decisions that they have to make, you know, possibly concentrate on, you know, is this kid concussed or is he not? Can I put him in? Can I not? Coach has got to worry about that while he's trying to also work about game, game planning. So that will take a lot of heat off of them. And then also, I mean, with this COVID stuff going on right now, it would be a great asset to have in our buildings to help monitor our athletes. Yes.
Since we have 3 home schools, why wouldn't we do 3 people?
Well, we were looking at the way it was done in the past. We did it 2 years ago. We did have 2. We got them through Mountain River. And 2 actually worked. They worked out okay. It depends on schedules. So what we'll have to do is get with our ADs are going to have to meet, work out schedules. If and when we hire 2 of them, work on schedules, and they will have to work out a schedule covering all the events.
You're talking about practices and games or just?
Well,
games?
like for high school, for instance, during the fall, we want to be at all home volleyball matches, all home matches, home football games. There's no games at those evenings, and they will take turns rotate at the practice. Help with rehab, whatever else.
The chances, like for instance, in the session we were playing football now, it's covered 1 person. If all 3 schools, I'm using football as an example, are known, then you have 1 school not covered.
In that situation, we would be in a bind. Does that happen much that you know?
Not too often, when they look, it does happen occasionally. One of the things too with trainers is it's very, very difficult to find trainers. And what we found out was this year we were lucky to find 2 trainers that we've already talked to and everything that have come in. And what we found out was the bulk of the trainers, when they graduate, it's not so much that they accept jobs, they go to GA jobs. They'll take a graduate assistant job, get their master's, and move on. Very, very few come out as a graduate and go right into athletic training. So that really limits the number. For example, Ohio University this year only had 2 students available out of their entire class that were looking for jobs. In March, they already had jobs. We have 1 young lady from Marietta College and 1 from Muskingum University.
You're still going to have to get an ambulance or EMT anyway, right? That could cover your. Yeah.
Any questions?
Hey, Rob, I got a couple questions for you.
Yeah.
How soon are we going to start getting on how we're going to start the new school year? I mean, I did ask Jennifer because I thought,
Yeah, well, we're going to set up committees probably here within the next week or so, and start meeting and have some discussion. We'll have to get in touch with, not only Monroe County Health Department, we'll have to get in touch with Belmont County Health Department because we have Powhatan Elementary up there. So we're going to communicate with our local health departments and come up, once we get the guidelines from ODE, then we know we have a direction. But we're trying to get these committees formed so that we're ready to go once we get that direction.
On the interviews on capture position.
I would assume so. I would recommend them.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Even, I want him to more or less take the lead on that. You're welcome. All right, Ms. Smith, that wraps up the superintendent.
Any questions? Not, I make a motion to accept the consent agenda. All right.
Everyone is open. Mr. Winkler?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson? Yes. Mr. Goss?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith? Yes. Motion carries. We're on old business. Approval of April financial reports. I move to approve the financial reports. I'll second. The voting is open. Mrs. Anderson? Yes. Mrs. Smith? Yes. Mr. Goss?
Thank
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mr. Winkler?
Stay.
Motion carries, and that brings us to new business. Number one under new business is discussion and second final reading of policy 38, number 2. I'd like to make a motion to table postpone these to our July meeting. If people are having a chance to review them with Mr. Lawson.
And we'll be meeting with them
Tomorrow.
tomorrow.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Okay, ready to go. Mrs. Smith? Yes. Mr. Winkler?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson? Yes. Mr. Goss? Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Motion carries. Brings us to number 2, which is a discussion and approval of the Monroe Central multi-purpose building and Belleville campus field house needed equipment. Questions?
Yes. Hard not to.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Voting is open. Mr. Winkler?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson? Yes. Mr. Goss?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith? Yes. Motion carries, which brings us.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sorry, yes.
Yes, thank you.
The discussion or action on the athletic director. Any questions?
I'll second that.
Voting is open. Mr. Gus?
Yes.
Mr. Winkler?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Motion carries and it brings us to the approval of May financial report. Any questions?
I move we approve the May financial report.
I'll second. Okay, voting is open. Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Gus?
Abstain.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mr. Winkler?
Abstain.
Motion carries. That finishes new business and brings us to public participation.
Did you have any?
I have nothing.
Nor did I.
Having nothing, we'll move to treasurer's report. Okay, I have two items. The first item is just the motion to do the transfer, the appropriate paperwork at the courthouse for the bathroom projects that were approved at the last board meeting. We have $224,974 or $975 for the restroom, the $81,180 for the carpentry lab, and the $36,355 for the ag lab, restroom and locker room. The second item is just a revised forecast. We did approve one already in May, but there were some changes that I have listed. And they were significant enough, I thought I should bring back, get it approved and resubmit to the state. I updated the debt service numbers on there. The actual April numbers are now included in there. There was a forecasting software issue that Mike found, and it is now corrected. And the exercise equipment that was board approved last time, the one that was board approved tonight is not in the figures. The miscellaneous equipment for Bellisville Fieldhouse and the restroom renovations are already included in this also. That was board approved last board meeting. And that's all I have, unless you guys have questions.
I would, promise you to revise the forecast. You don't have to do it every time you spend money.
No. The items that I just listed was significant enough that I thought that we should, because spending number was, if you look back at the other forecast that we did, I don't have the other one in front of me. But it was significant enough, I thought we should revise it and send it to state to get a little bit closer of where we know where we are right now. More tickets, yes.
I move to approve the treasurer's report.
Okay. Okay, voting is open. Well, now it's open. Sorry, I forgot to click that last button. Ronnie, how did you want to vote?
Yes.
Okay. For some reason, it has you not present.
Mine popped up again.
Yeah, let me, hold on. Jerry, you abstained, correct?
Yes.
Oh, gosh. Okay. Hey, okay, you got it. All right. Okay, Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Gus? Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mr. Winkler?
Yes.
At this time, I need motion to adjourn to executive
employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, promotion, or compensation of a public employee or official.
So moved.
Okay, voting is open. Mr. Beck?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Winkler?
Yes.
Motion carries. Let the record show we're adjourned to executive session at 6:49. Okay, you have the big button for no one. Just let it save and then just hit the big button again. It'll just be two parts. I'd like to call this meeting back to order. The record show at 8:48, the meeting is in the executive session. And I made a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purpose of.
So moved.
Yes. Hold on, I have to log back in. You ready for it? Not yet, it kicked me out. Making me sign back in. Okay, I'm ready. I'd like a motion to adjourn to executive session to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, promotion, or compensation of public employee or official. All right, that's what I was talking about. I move. Thank you, Doug.
Second.
Thank you, Terry. Okay, voting is open. I think yes. Yes. Mrs. Anderson? Yes. Mr. Gus?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith? Yes. Mr. Winkler?
Yes.
Let the record show we are reconvening All right, Mr. Thomas, moving back to order, let the record show we reconvene at 9:05. And a motion to adjourn to executive session to prepare for conduct or review negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning the compensation or other terms and conditions of employment.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, voting is open. I vote yes. Yes. Mary, I voted for you. Yes. I voted for you. Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Winkler?
Yes.
Mr. Gus?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
I already turned it on. I didn't turn yours on because I figured you turned yours on and off.
I'd like to call this meeting back to order by Director Chair 9:15 and please like executive session. We move on to personnel. Any questions or issues with personnel?
I make a motion to approve all personnel with, amending Steve George's contract to a 2-year contract.
I'll second. Voting is open. Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith? Yes. Mr. Goss?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mr. Winkler?
Yes.
Motion carries. You have to clear.
All right, let's wait. Good.
Voting is open. Mr. Winkler?
Yeah.
Mr. Goss? Mrs. Anderson? Yes. Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?